All right, guys, today we're going to take a look at dividing decimals by integers. So dividing decimals by whole numbers. Let's take a look. Let's do 22.568, and we're going to divide that by 26. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is we always take our decimal straight up into our answer. All right. Then we ask ourselves, we start on the far left here and we ask if 26 will go into any of these numbers. So first, does 26 go into 2? The answer is no. If you want, you can put a 0 here. Does 26 go into 22? Still no. And finally, does 26 go into 225? And the answer to that is yes. Now, kind of tricky here because we're not really used to dealing with big numbers like 26 and 225 to see how many times those numbers will go into each other. But what I like to do is, just to get a good estimate here, take a look at the first digit, or the first digit here, and I'm going to round that up to a 3. So instead of 26, we're going to treat this like 30. And then I'm going to ask myself, or a 3 here, does 3 go into 22, or how many times could 3 go into 22? Okay, the answer for that is going to be 7. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that's the correct answer, but it gives us a good place to start. Okay, so now we're going to do our multiplication here. We do 7 times 26. Some people like to do it over here on the side, which is totally fine. I like to just kind of do it as I go. So 7 times 6 is 42. Carry the 4. 7 times 2 is 14 plus 4 is 18. And I'm going to be left with 43 here. Now, I got a problem. My remainder, whatever I have left after my subtraction, has to be smaller than this number. If it's not smaller than that number, basically what that means is we need to make this one a little bit bigger. Okay, so 7 here is not going to be big enough. So I'm going to start over here. I'm going to erase this. And I'm going to move up on that one. I'm going to go from 7 to 8. Now, 8 times 6 is 48, so I write my 8 down. I carry my 4. 8 times 2 is 16, plus 4 is 20. Okay, now we do our subtraction. I'm going to have to borrow here, so I get a 1 and a 15. My last step here before I move on, 15 minus 8 is 7, 1 minus 0 is 1, and 2 minus 2 is 0. So again, we pause and check. Is this number smaller than this one? And the answer is yes, which means we're ready to move to our next step. And our next step is we drop the next number down. Okay. Now, again, we're going to ask ourselves, how many times does 26 go into 176? So those are kind of weird numbers again. They're not numbers that we're really used to using. So again, I'm going to make this a 3. And I'm going to ask myself, how many times does 3 go into 17? And the answer for that is going to be 6. Or I'm sorry, it's going to be 5. But I think it might be a little bit bigger. Okay, because the 26 here is, we're rounding it up to 30. And last time I picked a number, I was a little bit low. So I'm going to try and pick a number just a little bit higher. So instead of a 6 here, instead of a 5 here, I'm going to use a 6. And we're just going to see how that works. So 6 times 6 is 36. So I write my 6, carry my 3. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 3 is 15. And it looks like we made the right choice here. 7 minus 5 is 2, 0, and 1 minus 1 is 0. And again, this number is smaller than this one, so we're good to go. We're going to bring this 8 down. And one last time, we're going to check here how many times does 26 go into 208. Again, we might say how many times does 3 go into 20. That would be about a 7. Let's see, if I do a 7 here, I get 42. That's going to be 182, and that's going to be too small. So I got to go one bigger. So I'm going to go 0.868 here. 8 times 6 is 48. Carry my 4. 8 times 2 is 16, plus 4 is 20. And there I zeroed out my my subtraction. So my final answer here is 0.868 for that one. And that one was kind of tricky, guys, because we've got, this 26 here is sort of tough to figure out how many times that number goes into these numbers as we're working through. Let's try another one. Let's do 11.34 divided by 36. Bring our decimal up. I'm going to ask myself, how many times does 36 go into, or does 36 go into 1? That's a no. Does 36 go into 11? That's no. Does 36 go into 113? That's a yes. So now we got to figure out how many times. 2 times 36 is 72. And then if we added another one, that's going to get us to 108. So that's going to be pretty close. So I'm going to go with 3 here. I'm going to put a 3 there. 3 times 6 is 18. So I write my 8, carry my 1. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10. And I'm going to have to borrow here, so I'm left with a 5. And 5 is less than 36, so we're good. I'm going to bring my 4 down. 36 goes into 54. That's an easy one. 1 time. 1 times 36. And when we subtract these, we get 18. Now, we haven't seen this one yet. We've still got a remainder left, but we're out of numbers. Okay, so what we do here is we add a 0, and that doesn't change my initial number. It's still 11.34, but this extra 0 here we can actually add on to the end, and we're going to drop that down. In fact, I think in your book it's actually 11.340, so you wouldn't have to add that 0. But anyway, 36 into 180 is what we're looking for. So I know that 3 goes into 18 6 times, but that's going to be too big. 3 goes into 5. I'm going to try a 5. Again, just looking at the first digits here, trying to give myself an idea how many times 36 will go into 180. So instead of doing that, I just ask myself, how many times will a 3 go into 18? And the answer to that is 6, but then there's going to be a lot left over. So we're going with a 5 and seeing if that works. 5 times 6 is 30. So we write a 0, carry our 3. 5 times 3 is 15, plus another 3 is 18. And there we go. We got another zeroed out. So it's 0.315 for that one. Hopefully that helps you figure out how to divide some decimals by integers. I'm going to put another one up pretty soon that talks about dividing decimals by decimals. Thanks for watching.